Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Realty Plus Masterclass webinar. And in fact, the webinar for today is part of the South virtual series that we are doing. And yesterday we had our focus on Chennai, where we spoke about the housing market for Chennai. And today we are, in the city of Bangalore, where we will be talking about the sales patterns. But before we go ahead with the discussion and I introduce our eminent speakers, would like to give you a small brief about what Realty Plus is. I'm Sapna Srivastava, editor for Realty Plus magazine, and this webinar has been put together with the technology support partner, digitalmarketinguniversity.com. So friends, Realty Plus is a part of Exchange for Media and Business World Group, and we have been part of the real estate industry for more than 16 years now. It's been a credible journey, and we have Realty Plus magazine as the monthly publication that is available in print as well as e-edition. So through this magazine, we have been covering all aspects of real estate, building, construction, marketing, and everything and anything to do with real estate. Apart from this monthly product, we also have a yearly product, which is the collector's edition coffee table books, which every year we bring out on specific topics, such as 100 luxury projects of the year, affordable housing projects of the year, the developers of the year. We recently did on building material brands and also projects from across the country. Our very interesting next coffee table book, which will be the 8th coffee table book, is coming up. It is already in production stages, and it is called Realty Plus Super CXOs. In fact, it's already being creating a buzz in the industry, and we will be through this coffee table book highlighting the real estate influencers from across the country. So do keep looking forward to this product. Another very interesting product that we are coming out with is the Realty Plus Tech Titans, which is in association with JLL as the knowledge partner. So in this digital book, we will be highlighting real estate firms that have been proactively adopting technology in a big way, and also the companies that are providing innovative technology solutions, especially for the real estate and building and construction industry. So another very watch out product from Realty Plus. Apart from these products, we have been doing Realty Plus Conclave and Excellence Awards in physical form in 6 cities across the country. But as you know, today is the age of doing everything online and virtual meetings. So we are coming up with these Realty Plus Conclave and Excellence Awards on a virtual platform. And the first of it we will be organizing for Gujarat region in the month of August. So I promise you, this is going to be one of its kinds awards evening on a very new and innovative virtual platform. So look out for this product as well. Realty Plus has also launched Digital Connect, which is its digital initiative through various activities that we do digitally. One of them is the Realty Plus Masterclass webinar, as we have today. We also have Realty Plus Real Talk series, which are video interviews with the experts from various segments of real estate and again, building, construction, finance, and many more segments. We also have an e-newsletter, which goes to the entire database every morning with the latest news of the segment, Indian and international, as well as expert views and opinions. We also are very strong on social media, and whether it is Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and we stay connected with our readers, with our partners, with our peers in the industry through these channels, and we also promote our activities on these channels. So these were some of the product snippets that I gave you about what Realty Plus is, what the activities it is doing, and the forthcoming activities. In case you would like to know more about, please do get in touch with Ms. Tripti Kedia, our publisher and business head at tripti@exchangeformedia.com. So thanks for going through the introduction of Realty Plus. Coming back to the webinar of today, the topic for today's webinar is Bengaluru's changing sales patterns, both digital and traditional. And keeping in sync with what the topic is, we have a very eclectic mix of panelists today. While we have the veterans of the industry, we also have the young generation of real estate from Bengaluru and also the technology experts. Also, at the end of the discussion, we will have a Q&A panel in which joining me will be Haji Issac Mathew, who is the CEO, Indus Technologies, and Ruhail Amin, who is the senior editor for Exchange for Media and BW Business World. So that will be later in the evening, but before that, let me introduce our eminent speakers for today. So moving ahead, first of all, I would like to invite Mr. Prashant Thakur, who will be leading this conversation, and he's the moderator of the session. Mr. Prashant Thakur is Director and Head Research, ANAROCK Property Consultants. He's a seasoned corporate strategy and management consulting professional with an experience of over 18 years. He has worked extensively in multiple sectors that include real estate, financial services, and consumer business. Mr. Prashant Thakur, welcome to you on the session.
Thank you, Thakur.
We also have as speaker, I will introduce now, Mr. Kishore Jain, who is the Managing Director, Jain Heights, and he is also President CREDAI Bengaluru. Mr. Jain is a dynamic professional with more than 25 years of experience in the field of real estate, construction and development. And in fact, he has to his credit some of the finest landmarks of Bengaluru. Mr. Jain, a very warm welcome today.
Thank you very much.
Now I would introduce Mr. Swaroop Anish. He's the Executive Director, Business Development, Prestige Estate Projects Limited. And Mr. Anish has a prolific career spanning 27 years at Prestige. In fact, he has been with Prestige for more than 17 years now and has been leading the business development in residential, commercial segments across geographies, from land acquisition, design and development to sales and marketing. So, it's a huge gamut of segments that he is handling. Mr. Anish, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. We also have with us Mr. Farook Mahmood. He is the Chairman and Managing Director for Silverline Group. He is also the founder president for Fiatchi India. In fact, Mr. Mahmood has over 40 years of experience, and he has been instrumental in numerous deals for multinationals, Indian large corporations, as well as HNIs. He is also the member of Fellow Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, UK, and was the past president of Bangalore Realtors Association of India. Mr. Mahmood, it's a pleasure to have you here with us. I now introduce Ms. Reeza Sebastian. She is the President, Residential Business Embassy Group. And Ms. Reeza has been handling ongoing portfolio at Embassy valued over $1 billion US. She has been part of the group for more than 15 years now. So, in fact, a very seasoned professional we have here with us. And she has helped Embassy Group in positioning its residential portfolio with end-to-end conceptualization, marketing, business development, and project management. Reeza, it's a pleasure again to have you here with us.
Thank you very much, Sapna, and a warm welcome to the rest of the panelists and the viewers.
Yes, thank you, Reeza. Now, the youngest member of our panel is Darshan Govindaraju. He's the director of Vaishnavi Group, and he has been spearheading the expansion of commercial portfolio and residential sales and marketing for Vaishnavi Group. In fact, he is instrumental in building and maintaining tenant and investor confidence apart from driving developments. He interacts closely with the sales team of the group to develop proactive plans for residential project sales, and I believe he will be bringing in a lot of novel ideas in today's session. So Darshan, warm welcome to the session today.
Thank you, Sapna. Thank you for that very kind information, and happy to be here among all the eminent panelists.
Same here, same here. So our final participant of this session is Vikram Kotnis. He is the founder and MD for Amura Marketing. In fact, he is a marketer with an outlook of an engineer. So very interesting mix we have. He's a pioneer in digital and PropTech for real estate and has been working for the real estate technology for more than 12 years now. He runs one of the largest real estate MarTech company in India, which is Amura Marketing. So Vikram, a very warm welcome to you, and it's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, Sapna, and happy to be here with the eminent panelists.
Yeah, so, thank you everyone for being here with us. Mr. Thakur, I now hand it over to you to please take over the conversation.
Thank you, Sapna. And a very good afternoon and a hearty welcome to all the eminent panelists. It's an absolute privilege to interact with all of you. And then, I guess that the knowledge that is kind of collectively disseminated from this group would also benefit the people who have logged in. So, I think this is one of the most challenging time, not only for real estate, but for the entire mankind. And then, the entire world almost is on a virtual shutdown mode was for almost 3 months. And most of us wouldn't have seen such kind of unprecedented time. So all those traditional strategies and the plannings that we're used to as a business continuity plan has been kind of of no use. Everybody has gone back to the drawing board, and everybody is trying to grapple with what the situation that they have. Now, if we look at how things have evolved in the last 3 or 4 months from the day the lockdown was announced or the pandemic started to create havoc, now, first couple of weeks went in kind of just identifying what has hit us. There was a lot of chaos and a lot of uncertainty in the minds of buyers, but slowly it's heartening and good to see that things are starting to come back. Slowly lockdowns are getting relaxed, construction activities are picking up. We are seeing some kind of activities happening in each and every market, and the good part is that Bangalore has been one of the most resilient market even before this COVID-19 and this pandemic happened. A couple of things that really set this market apart was the developers were very disciplined. Execution was the cornerstone of the strategy, and I guess the players in the Bangalore market were more of end user driven. I think these things went in the favor of it. But again, having said that, the buyers have n number of questions these days. Now, if we talk about the housing need for India, India has a natural demand of housing, and 80% of the country still needs to be built. We are talking about a huge amount of urban housing shortage, and on one hand we talk about market going in a tailspin. There are various questions that needs to be addressed. So what has clearly emerged out that the buyer is there in the market, but he's getting confused by all those negative news, all those confusion that is prevalent in the market, and it's I think it's the prime responsibility of all the stakeholders to clear the air, slowly build the confidence, reach out to the end users by demonstrating good execution, by kind of showing the customer centricity. And as people have been saying in a very right way that this is the time when this entire real estate, particularly the residential piece, is slowly moving from an unorganized to a more organized player, which is going to eventually benefit all of us. And digital, of course, which is the topic of the center theme of this discussion, is going to play a big role from where this journey goes. So now with that background, I would like to open up this discussion with Mr. Kishore Jain, who would kind of who represents the CREDAI and the member of the Bangalore fraternity. Kishore, how do you see the entire mood in Bangalore market? I know the situation is slowly improving. Bangalore has been one of the four front runner in the kind of showing the resilience. But how did the developers respond to this entire phase of complete lockdown, and what are the changes that they have seen in the terms of consumers' mood and the developers themselves? Because there's something of a nobody has kind of planned for it. So how the entire fraternity is coping?
Yeah. So good evening to everybody, and I congratulate Realty Plus team for this opportunity and having this interaction. Thank you. Coming to the Bangalore real estate market in this unusual scenario and during this unusual time, in fact, I go back to a little back, maybe 5 years before. See, Bangalore real estate market has always proven to be an end user driven market. And COVID would have impacted us now, but Bangalore particularly the real estate market across has hit by, started with demonetization, second with the GST policy reform, and then the RERA Act, and adding to that was the financial crisis in 2018. So during those all impact, which has impacted the real estate market, so Bangalore real estate developer has shown always the resilience. There were a few reasons why the Bangalore real estate developer was able to show the resilience. One of the finest quality of developer, people who believe, the developer who believes in ethical way of doing business, disciplined approach, and right way of doing business are from the Bangalore. Very proudly, I could say. In fact, to add up, recently last year, Times of India has conducted a survey. You are the top 10 developers in terms of good business practices. Among those top 10, 5 are from Bangalore. This is the quality of breed of developers in Bangalore market. When I see the Bengaluru economy, what makes the Bangalore economy more vibrant is purely because of the IT and IT-enabled services sector. During this pandemic, and of course, Bangalore is always known as the IT capital of the country or IT capital of the East. It's rightly defined. And during this pandemic, so initially, yes, everybody was going through helter-skelter and a lot of rumors were there in the market. But that has been seized up within 2 weeks. And we could see during the month of April, the first month of lockdown, there were reports from the developer where they say they were able to sell some of the 200 units or so, some of the large developers. They say people are making virtual tour and they were able to do online payment and able to book the units by expression of interest, and somewhere the payment gateway is also there. Right? And right now the mood in Bangalore real estate market, if I could see, there is a good traction. In fact, we were working with the bankers and understanding how the traction and how the transactions have happened. Because all these days we were predicting the market. I am seeing the June month report of all the housing finance companies. So all the top 3 or 4 finance companies, they have done a good consumer loan, and their offtake in the consumer loan, particularly home loan, it has reached to almost the 70% of the pre-COVID level. So that kind of things have been shot up. So what is the consumer behavior and what is consumer is looking for? Basically, consumer is more inclined towards near to completion or ready to move home inventory. This is what has become the consumer interest. And we could see a lot of site visits have increased, and which is backed by number of leads, the quality of leads and the inquiries. And the site visit conversion ratio has become very, very high. Reason for the same is people haven't wanted home so badly ever what they wanted now. One is maybe COVID, and somewhere the season is also affecting. During monsoon, when you are working from home, then you really know, this is monsoon, I cannot go out, and this is where I have to live. So everybody, almost majority of the customers or consumers are looking for upgradation of their home. This is a really genuine interest. And during COVID time, if somebody is venturing and braving himself for a site visit, if he is not serious, definitely he will not risk his life. So quality of consumption is very good, and blessing in disguise, I would say. Due to COVID, this pandemic, the IT sector has gone up the requirement of digital in every business, whether it's been small, medium, or large businesses. Every business requirement or the dependency on the IT sector has gone high. And that way the IT sector, in fact, if you see today's, who is more hiring, then of course it is IT sector who is doing more hiring. And that has been impacted positively on the IT sector. And Bangalore market, the end users are majorly, predominantly are from the IT sector. So that way, Bangalore real estate market has shown resilience and able to bounce back in a very positive manner. This is general mood of Bangalore real estate. Thank you. Over to you, Prashant.
Summarize it quite well, Kishore. I totally agree that Bangalore has been, quite disciplined in all this sense. So Reeza, you were, early adopter of technology back to look at, embassy. Have you seen, the approach that players who were kind of, focusing more on digital when, the entire world was selling, this is a physical asset, people would not kind of a lot of weightage is on side digital collateral and all the stuff. Is the perception or is the kind of mood that you see in the consumers is still that, or they have also kind of now realized that real estate for, if we are considering a good developer, can be, at least 80% of the home buying journey that starts from discovery, kind of looking at all the layouts, amenities can be done online. We can go for, all those digital site visits and all the stuff, and then go for a final transaction. So have you seen the consumer is also accepting the fact that, these things can be done digitally? We can, e-transact in terms of with a good developer. Lisa, you're on mute.
Thanks for that question, Prashant. I think, yes, Embassy has been one of the front runners when it came to adopting technology. And just to take that one step back, I would say that marketing has seen many stages of evolution, right? From print media, then we started leveraging radio, television, out-of-home advertising. And then the third generation, of course, which utilized social media marketing. However, all of these generations actually focused on exploration. Unlike today's world, which demands attention on customer experiences, right? So that experiential marketing is what will sell right now. So the fourth generation of marketing is what's going to take center stage, which brings about a more technology-first approach to give the customers an exciting experience. An effectively designed digital customer journey based on very high-value content, experiential technologies, I believe would make customer engagement much more interesting and consequently will lead to a very, very much higher ROI as well. They are also more scalable. Digital engagements are more scalable. They require lesser overheads and they render a lot of real-time actionable insights. So how we have seen this actually evolve is that once this whole lockdown was put together and implemented, we saw that apart from the traditional online presence, most real estate players actually equipped all their brand touch points. So immediately people started using VR, AR, AI-based chatbot systems. However, I would still continue to say that human capital is very, very important in real estate. While digital may be a means to get to the customer, to generate leads, to be able to view the property, but to create that interest and awareness, etc. But without visiting the property, the customer is not going to make that choice. We identified this opportunity way back in 2018 when Embassy actually launched India's first Alexa-enabled homes. That was Embassy Edge at Embassy Springs. We also launched an end-to-end online portal in 2018, which enabled online booking. It caters to the entire post-sales management process, so customers could actually choose their apartments, buy it, pay for it, track construction, manage documentation, and customers could actually download this app and stay connected through their journey with us. However, continue to reiterate that human need is very, very important. Human capital is important. And, real estate being a tangible asset, physical inspection of the progress of the property is something that digitization may not be able to exactly replace.
I think, Reeza, you have put it quite, rightly that though adoption of technology would increase, but since real estate is such an high involvement and, high emotion product, people would like to, see and feel the product.
Yeah.
Swaroop, you have been one of the veteran in the market and you have seen the market evolve for quite a long time. If we talk about the decision makers in the entire home buying process, it's generally the people. If you talk about 10, 15 years back, it was 40, 45 plus of age. Now, gradually that home buying average age has come down. And particularly for a city like Bangalore, which has a lot of nuclear families and young generation, is the adoption of technology, if I have to kind of club it between people who are in 40 plus and let's say a millennial buyer, do you see any difference or kind of some kind of hesitation in the older generation, and as compared to the millennials? And if you find such things, what are the ways and means to kind of overcome that?
Prashant, fact is, we've got a lot of young buyers today. There's no doubt about it. And having said that, across the board, you see adoption of digital or technology is fairly strong in Bangalore as a city. So, in the early days, we used digital to reach out to customers in America or wherever who were not in Bangalore, because the Bangalore prospect could always come down to the site and have a chat with you. So what was needed then is to now ramp up the digital side and reach out to a larger audience, which we have done. And I think quite nicely, as Reeza pointed out, the human quotient is irreplaceable. One does digital and puts it out on various platforms to enable customers to do a little bit of funneling. There may be 10 choices which they're looking at. Earlier you had the luxury of going for 10 site visits over 4 weekends. Today you can't do that, at least in this short time. So what customers tend to do is funnel it down to a few properties using all the digital mediums which are out there, compare properties, and then come to maybe a property or two and then spend time on it. Having said that, the young buyer, I would say, has no hesitation about debt. He is quite happy to sign on the debt. And in today's day and age, when you get a home loan at a price which you're not seeing for 15 years, I'd say it makes it far more lucrative. 6.95 or 7 is a great start point. And if you club it on to a 15 or 20-year loan, you're sitting on some figure which you can easily service every month. So that's how we see it. Now, there was also talk some time back saying, the millennials don't believe in buying homes and stuff like that. I can tell you with absolute certainty that during this lockdown period, the home has become the absolute core. There goes the overseas holiday or the car or whatever it is. I mean, do I have a good home? I mean, let's start with that as a foundation. And once I have that and a comfortable home, then the holiday can always come, the car can always come, and so on and so forth. So you've seen various things happen during this period, and the young buyers are very much there. A lot more have emerged in the recent past. A lot of fence sitters have come out to make their decision as well. So that's broadly how I see it, in response to younger buyers and older buyers and the use of digital. But at the end of all the digital consumption by the prospect, you need to have that compelling phone call or video call. That is the clincher. So that's where the human element comes in. I'd say I've seen the boys in the team having a 45-minute call with somebody in the US or so, because it's a little bit of a patient discussion. The salesman is trying to close, but the customer has a lot of queries. So they've gone on to a method whereby you hear out everything and get into the commercial piece at the very end.
Very well said, Swaroop. I think, affordability, and then if you look at the rate of interest, in fact, Bank of Baroda has even brought it down further to 6.8, lower than SBI. Today I saw the news. And, Darshan, I think you represent the millennials in this panel. So now, if I have to look at today's youth, and, you would be also going through a lot of the buyer's profile. Is there any change post-COVID? Because, we also ran a survey. what has emerged out, which is very encouraging, that now millennials have understood the importance of a physical asset. And few of the people, who are thinking of early retirement, for them, buying a house, securing a roof over the head has become a priority. So, my question to you would be, if you, for a second, if you just remove the developer's hat and then you just step into a real millennial, what are the things that the millennials are looking, right? From design, from the way they are serviced, from the way the product is pitched to them, because they are a different breed. Pitching a product to a guy who is already convinced that home is important, rather than pitching a client, a millennial who has recently realized, and he's still on the fence whether he should commit to a long-term decision or not. So how do you see that? What is a millennial expectation as a buyer?
Prashant, thank you for that question. Firstly, I would like to deter from the point that the millennials don't have the urge to buy a home, because I think that is prevalent in all people, regardless of their ages. Now, in terms of what a millennial would like in terms of design, yes, we would like well-designed spaces, but I would more put it to implicit trust, with the developer per se. Now, if I'm going to do some research online, I, as a millennial, would probably check out, like Mr. Swaroop and Ms. Reeza and Mr. Jain said, we would completely finish our research online, which is what most people since the COVID started have been doing. So they're comparing A, B, C, D, probably coming back to looking just A and B, and then finally visiting A on a particular weekend, because that's all the time they can afford today. So this research becomes that much more critical in terms for a millennial, because we have that much more access to digital avenues. So millennials today, they're all over the place in terms of checking out what every place has to offer. So that would make more sense for us. And now with regard to technology, I think we have always been, the real estate field has always been open to technology. Nothing is new today. So what was there pre-COVID is still applicable today in terms of all the avenues possible, whether that be in terms of digital. You're saying millennials. I would, as a millennial, I would like to probably experience a home through VR, which I can probably scan on newspaper QR and get access to that. Or I may want to probably interact with an AI bot, as Ms. Reeza mentioned, which probably could answer most of my questions if I'm not too comfortable with human interaction. And before finally getting to a salesperson at a project and, finally figuring it out whether I want to make that purchase or not. But I would definitely, as a millennial or any other person, I would think that a house is essential for anyone, whether that be as an investment for some who are capable of that, or an end-use product. I think it is essential, and I don't think the trend is about to deter in the near to short term.
Very nicely put, Darshan. I think you are the most apt person to answer this question about millennials. And few interesting points that you have put across, and I see Vikram taking quite a keen smile at it. So Vikram, I'll come to you before I go to Farook. So Vikram, I think you spotted, as I said earlier, that spotted this trend quite early, and then kind of when you set up this company. What has been the journey that you have seen, not from company point of view, but from the way the real estate players have been receptive to digital technology, and then is there an accelerated approach towards adoption of technology during this COVID-19? I think you would be the right person to answer to that.
Thank you for the question. Very interesting, actually, question. And so real estate has been kind of the slowest to adopt technology, actually. We first introduced technology back almost 8 years back, and I had to literally go and kind of beg people digital, and I remember selling the whole building at 50,000 rupees, almost 100 units, because nobody was doing digital, right? So very, very early adopters when the clicks were like a 1 rupee, 2 rupee and all these. Fortunately, people like Reeza, I think it was the first end-to-end implementation of what we saw of a real full funnel implementation for a customer. After that, I think most still work at the top of the funnel level, maybe a little bit of middle of the funnel. Lead आता है, lead manage हो जाता है थोड़ा बहुत. But nobody does the online negotiation. Nobody was doing the online negotiation or inventory selection or financial deals online, a negotiator and all these built in, right? But we have seen a sudden spike in that where I used to struggle to do probably a 1 or 2 demo in a month. In the last 1.5 months, we have done 300 demos. And we have almost all the large developers and all these, almost 120 clients signed up for the full funnel, full funnel adoption of technology.
I'm going. I'm going.
That is what the change we've been seeing. So the good thing that happened during COVID, and the customer was already there, because when we ran, let's say, Embassy, or when we ran ANAROCK, where we sold around 1,200 apartments digitally, the customer, if you call them for a check, they say, no, we are comfortable paying online. So they went online, paid the checks, got their receipts automatically. They were happy to receive all their updates and all these things. So the consumer had moved online probably long back. Industry took up a little bit time, but this COVID thing kind of accelerated it. The reason being, we were always in a touch and feel sales market. While we have been pushing online sales or assisted buying kind of a sales, where you first get a customer online, share your screens, kind of build the whole platform out and the experience out from there. And obviously a physical visit is done at the end to close it. But the closure can happen online, actually, is what we have seen. Right from Nesfest, which was probably 8 years back, 7 years back, we had closed almost 400 crores online. It was the largest campaign that ran for digital sales. To Mahindra, where we saw probably we booked around 1,500 UIs in 15 days and all this. So people are adopting it very fast. Just because bigger brands find it much more easy than a smaller brand is what we have seen. If the brand trust is already there, people don't mind doing a financial transaction online. So that is what we have seen with larger brands like a Mahindra or Embassy. So the transactions happen very easily. For smaller brands, it's a little tricky because then the sales push is required is very hard. Fortunately, during Embassy, what we saw was the sales push was minimal actually. We had only 5 salespeople probably on the site, and people were happy with the whole CX that was built out, the CP push. So the ecosystem has to be built out. Channel partner is also an important part of the equation. So extended systems need to be built out to take them into consideration. And it's a collaborative sale today. So collaboration is still missing. Bottom and middle and bottom of the funnel is still, now adoption has started after COVID. That is the trend I've seen.
So in a way, what I could get was it's a good crisis for players like you.
Definitely.
A long journey where, the entire real estate fraternity needs to
the sales process also has to change very fast to adopt this. So I think that is where the industry has been very resilient, that they have adopted very fast. Because I think real estate companies run one of the best sales teams hands down across any industry actually. So that is one good thing, that they adopt very fast.
So with that, I'll come to Farook. I have 2 questions for you. First of all, I don't want to miss this chance of getting your view on the entire Bangalore real estate market. And then, if you could just throw some light on how you see that this adoption of technology and this entire digital stuff is prevalent in the developed countries, and how would you benchmark India's progress vis-a-vis the global players in terms of adoption and kind of implementation? I think Farouk, Sapna, are you there?
Yeah, Mr. Farook, you are on mute.
I think.
Maybe in the meantime, we can ask another panelist once Mr. Farook is back.
So, okay, before we get Farouk back, Mr. Kishore, I think there has been a lot of questions in the mind of the buyers. People are willing to buy, but sometimes because of negative press or the many confusion, everybody is hesitant. They have been asking. This is the question that we get from our sales team, that everybody is expecting that there will be some price correction. But in my opinion, if you look at the disruption in terms of construction that we had, the supply chain broken, and I feel that there would be a slight increase in the entire construction activity. So, what would your message, to the audience, or let's say, if to the buyers have been who are kind of expecting some kind of price discount or some doubt about the timely completion, because these are genuine concerns that the buyer has. He's willing to buy, but he's a bit scared. How do we tackle those situations? How do we kind of hold his hand and help him to cross over and buy, or let's say do the transaction with full confidence?
The basis for this concern among the buyers was sprang from two reasons. One is when the pandemic hit, so the general feeling in the market was the first to affect the sector-wise, the first to affect and last to recover will be real estate. But the ground realities are something different. So they have got their answer. This is not the scenario. In fact, it's the last to affect and first to, rather has been much impacted real estate sector. In fact, the need of the home has grown much more higher than pre-COVID level. But was the one basis for them to say there should be a price correction. Otherwise, there wasn't any scientific basis. Second was that some of the market leaders, some of the bankers, and some of the political leaders, as mentioned during their webinars in the media, and they somewhere limited themselves. Their logic was there should be some price reduction, and somewhere they were referring to the Mumbai Worli market, where there was 30, 40, 50 crores worth of each unit, that kind of inventory. So the wisdom from them was to those selective developers, instead of holding that kind of high-end inventory, to liquidate. Yeah. So why don't you liquidate? And that was limited to like 3% of the super luxury market in the country, which you represent. Otherwise, when you see at the ground level, the fundamental realities, see, due to the pandemic and paying those laborers, taking care of workers, and paying wages and salaries without any productivity on the production side, on the supply side, the cost has gone up. And of course, the migrant worker who has left, and there is a scarcity in the market for the migrant worker, and the worker cost has gone up drastically, I would say. And that cost has added up, second. And third, most important thing is the supply chain disruption. In fact, during pandemic and post-pandemic, we have observed a few of the main ingredient of construction sector is cement. And there was a cement cartelization, and post-COVID, they have increased prices by 50 to 60%. And the same has been, the same fact has been acknowledged by including Prime Minister office also. And they are intervening to see that the prices should not go up during this pandemic period. So, because of cement price hike, it has got a chain and cascading effect on other products. So that way, all the input cost has gone up. The construction is getting a bit delayed. There is a time overrun for the project because of non-availability of workers. And same has been acknowledged when RERA has given extension, a blanket extension to all the project timeline by 2 quarters. So with this, all input costs going up, and suddenly there is a supply shortage. In fact, what I could foresee in next 2 to 3 quarters, in particular, Bangalore real estate market can see the supply shortage. There will be supply side challenge. There won't be much inventory will be available in the market because no new launches are happening. Very few launches are happening, and the demand has spiked up. It has gone up, and consumer is very well informed, and he knows this is the best time to buy the property. Because home loan rates are all-time low, even pre-2004 level. People wouldn't have seen that kind of lowest rate of interest. And while talking to you, already I know at least half a dozen developers who are into bracket of 2 crore plus, and they have increased the rate. And after increasing, still transactions are happening. So someone who still wait the prices will reduce and drop, I think the wait will be till eternity, I think. It can't go lower than this.
I totally agree. I think this is the best time for an end user to buy home. So I see Farook is back. So Farook, if you could share your thoughts and readings of the entire real estate market in Bangalore, and then the second question that I have for you is that how do you see India's tech adoption, digital adoption, vis-a-vis the other developed countries?
Thanks. Sorry, I think technology at its best, and I lost you guys when I was being asked the question, but nevertheless, I think Mr. Jain, Reeza, Swaroop, and Darshan have really given a background on the status of digital marketing and things. But I'd like to bring in a different thing to this. I'd say apart from the digital thing, I would say the feet on the ground or the handshake, that's the most important part of any deal. And I would say that, you've got to try all avenues from that perspective to try and push your sales. But don't give away the broker or write him off as non-existent. Swaroop's laughing to that. And my personal feel is, in residential or commercial, I think it's the broker that eventually makes all that difference. If you see a particular broker or 100 brokers talking about a project or a particular company, indirectly it helps the developers conclude those sales, because these are the guys who are going there and giving you free publicity, and they don't get paid for it at the end of the day. So I would say, apart from all this, the feet on the ground, that's the broker, mom and pop operations like myself, are the people who make things really happen out there. Talking about this, I would say real estate, and especially the residential real estate, is an asset class that one can't ignore, and especially with things like what's happening with COVID or no COVID. People need more space. It's all a question of affordability. And like Mr. Jain said, you can't get a better pricing at this point in time. I mean, interest rates the lowest. Reeza talked about technology being a part of this whole thing thrown in. Swaroop talked about the feet on the ground, and Darshan gave his point of view from the millennials. And of course, Vikram gave a spiel on the advantages of and how it's helped Embassy and the others sell property. You've been in the broking business, and from that perspective, I would say that at the end of the day, if it's the right product, the right mix, things will happen. And there's a lot of talk. Prices are going to come down 5%, 10%, 15%. I mean, people are going making all these educated or uneducated guesses, saying that it's a doomsday kind of a scenario. No, it's not. I mean, God's grace. I mean, this has happened with God's will, and I think it'll happen. Stop with God's will. And as humans, we have to go with the flow. We've got to have a positive outflow to this whole thing. You can't see a better time than an opportunity, I would say, especially for the fence sitters who've been wanting to buy property for quite a long time and have been put off by the doomsday pundits, especially in the mainstream media, who've been talking about prices crashing. 2-3 big names who I don't want to mention, who don't know A or R of real estate, talk about prices collapsing when they're funding this whole damn thing morning to night, and their balance sheets depend on this the profitability of these companies. And I don't see how they can make irresponsible statements which demoralize the whole market, and it gives the fence sitters more opportunity to come back to the developer and ask him for discounts. Where are the margins today? I mean, with the cost of construction going up, cost of labor going up, cost of real estate not being available, and if you take the past couple of months that things have happened, I think whatever inventory is in the market is going to get absorbed once people see that there is not many projects on the drawing board right now. Things are going to go up. I was sharing with my colleagues a couple of minutes ago before we started this. I know, and we've been responsible for 2 sales of close to about 55 crores in one of the most premium buildings in Bangalore, and 2 apartments we've sold. And this was pre-COVID and concluded after the markets opened out, when Bangalore opened out. And the 3 transactions that have happened in that building close to about 100 crores, and also a rental, I'm told, of a very high value. So I'm not just talking about one building. I'm just giving you an idea of what the market is. We've also concluded a transaction, a very large property in Rajmahal Villas, again close to about 40 crores. People are writing out checks. I don't see the markets coming down. I don't see things wither off. But I think people are giving it a try to see if they can get prices knocked off from the developer. It's the battle of wits right now, the way I see it. Who's going to blink first, the developer or the customer? And this is the time a few goodies are being thrown in by developers to make the whole deal lucrative and sweet. But I think as an asset class, real estate is here to stay, and it's here to stay perpetually. You and I will be gone, but real estate continued to be there. It will be there, and it will always be there. So from that perspective, I would say that this is the right time to invest into real estate. More so, the work from home concept people are talking about, office spaces shrinking. These are all knee-jerk reactions. I would say that, temporarily, you take Bangalore as a city has far more breathing space, larger apartments than a city like Mumbai or any others, Calcutta and things like that, where apartment sizes are small. People are, sitting down in their own rooms or stepping out into the lobbies to do Zoom calls. The kid is screaming there. You can hear in the background. You've got the pressure cooker going on there. I mean, this is not the environment. I mean, Bangalore is a lot more luckier that way, that people are able to do this. I'm saying, give it a little bit of time. Give the right deal. I'm sure that the customers are coming. They're just waiting to come in. And the fear factor is the most important thing that has to be eradicated from the buyer's mind. And all the developers, I think, or the entire industry seems to be working towards this positivity. And this is the need of the hour right now, to be positive. Pray to God and make sure that, hope for the best, pray for the best, and see that things settle down.
Very nice.
Prashant, I hope.
No, I think you have, kind of covered all the points, and I get your message also. So now, Swaroop, since we're running out of time, I will have a quick question for Reeza and Swaroop. So Swaroop, we have been hearing a lot about, how work from home is, going to change the office scenario. People would now move out to tier 2 cities, or, the peripheries would see a lot of demand. So you as one of the established player, have you started to notice some kind of change in the trend that, where peripheries and tier 2 cities, for example, like, Mysore or some satellite towns gaining prominence, or are they on your radar?
Let me put it this way. There's no such move as I can see. Of course, there are a couple of things. There's an interest in a 3-bedroom unit. There's an interest in a little more space. There's huge interest in moving into large communities. There's a large interest, again, in better managed communities. So that's what they want to get into today. Okay, you have your home, but what if it's in a small development where you don't have all the services thrown in? So the customer is quite clear. He's willing to move to the suburbs. Okay, perhaps he's working out of home a couple of days of the week, and a couple of days he's in the office. So a little better environment is what he's looking at overall, because he has a lot more time today to spend at home as well. So this community, larger communities and better managed communities are key. And we will look at maybe adding on a little more space in some of the units. But having said that, who would pay 15% more to accommodate a workstation in the house? I don't really see that happening. A lot of business in Bangalore is happening because we have right-sized the apartment. And that's what's helping them to acquire those homes at an early age and at a better number. So today what the consumer is doing is, does this product really match my requirement? And how do I align my cash flow to make it happen for under construction properties? It's not so much about price and how much can I knock it down. It's about my affordability and how can I match things. Having said all of that, the price rise in Bangalore has been very gradual. We've never had a steep climb anytime in the recent past. And over the last 12 months, just look at the number of launches. There haven't been too many. So what you will see now is a large amount of absorption of the ready product. I'd say a lot of it will go out of the market in the next 12 to 15 months. And maybe in 24 months, most of the good product would be gone. So things have changed a lot, and work from home, we adjust a little bit, but not too much. I don't see the consumer paying 20% more to accommodate a new requirement, because he's already looking at what best he can do with the amount of resources that he has.
I think this would make Reeza happy, because the township concept is here to stay and gain momentum. So, Reeza, now coming back to my the earlier theme, that are you kind of seeing a mix? For example, coming back to the more technical part. Now, let's say if you have to talk about the lead generation part that we do, the kind of inquiries that come in, what is the mix of that you're seeing through digital, through your direct sales channel? Is it seeing a gradual shift? Reeza, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. So interesting question again, Prashant. And I would say that this whole customer lifecycle management, and there are these 4 critical roles, right, that the customer actually goes through. So first, of course, is the lead. I mean, as a developer, we have the lead generation aspect, the site inspections are put together, the negotiations and the closures. Now, lead generation as such, of course, we have increased our digital budget by almost 50% now during this time. But we are also seeing that channel partners play an extremely important role in this entire process. Pre-COVID as well, we've had our mix, so to speak, from lead generation from channel partners versus direct would be almost 70 to 30. 70% being coming through the channel partners and 30% coming directly to us, right? So I would say that post-COVID, brokers are going to take on a very important role, and that would move from a pure broking kind of terminology to more of an advisor. But brokers are expected to become far more knowledgeable. They have to add more value and insights in order to stay ahead of the game. And why will a customer rely on a broker now? Because how much ever as a developer, we speak about our own product and we put it out there in the market, like Mr. Farook said, the developer needs, the customer needs someone to advise him. So the hyper-local services being provided by brokers will be greatly appreciated by customers. And the aspect of due diligence, what the lawyer actually does as far as the title deeds, etc. are concerned, he still looks for validation from a third party when he does the transactions. So one thing is sure, any broker or a CP in India who has any doubt regarding the importance post-COVID-19, I think they can be rest assured that they're needed much more now than ever before. All they need to do, I think, is to become more tech savvy, change the approach to data and technology to increase their chance of success with both the home buyers and the developers. And that's the entire aspect. And it would really be about, how we as a developer can actually stick to the entire seamless experience that we can provide, be it on digital platform, be it through CPs. And then when the customer actually comes to site, he's able to get that entire seamless brand experience, and that entire omni-channel presence transformed the real estate landscape. How does it extend beyond COVID is how we will have to take it forward.
Great. I think that validates Farook's point that channel partners and brokers cannot be ignored. They're the integral part of the entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
Prashant, can I add something to this whole dialogue? Now, we've been speaking about how we're transitioning from a traditional sales aspect to the digital sales aspect, right? So for that to happen, a customer or anyone who's interested should have implicit trust in the system, the developer, the execution, the product. So what I think would be important moving forward is adopting technology into the construction site as well, where certain good practices are being followed, where a customer can probably understand how probably a precast building for that matter. Everything is done at off-site, come assembled site, so you can vouch for the quality, or even conventionally executed good construction from good developers. So once you address that point, I think a lot more people will be comfortable switching from the traditional model of probably even visiting site to being given the comfort to transact even digitally online. So moving forward in times of COVID, I think it's essential for us developers, as we all do. I mean, the good ones are always going to maintain their quality, showcase and offer the best products to their customers. So once we set the benchmark, I think the customers across the board will be more comfortable switching from a traditional sales model of probably visiting site to probably even Monday, maybe not, buying a home without even visiting the site. I mean, we're far from that, but maybe just if you can set up some good SOPs and, quality measures, I think it's a possibility in the near future.
Very well said, Darshan. I think you rightly put, for example, if you're trying to push some online transaction, a standardization and then a focus on quality plays an important role. I think adoption of technology in every stage would help us that. So,
Prashant. Sorry, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Farook, you have something to add? Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add from what Darshan said and the other colleagues, Reeza and Swaroop and Mr. Jain. I just wanted to add that it's always, as a broker's hat that I wear, I always say it's better to deal with 5 reliable developers so that when you do the sale, you sleep peacefully at night and you don't worry about it because it's their worry. Once you've taken them to these developers, the top 10 in the city, you are not worried. Maybe there may be a delay of 3 months to 6 months for, certain circumstances beyond the control, like COVID-19 right now, which is considered to be force majeure and things like that. But you can be peaceful. Your buyers can be peaceful if you pick on any of the top 10 names and say yes, I have invested my money. I've got my client to put the money on this horse that we betted. And it may be a couple of months delayed, but at the end of the day, they're going to be happy with what they get. Delayed is not denied. So it's very important to choose a thoroughbred horse that won't let you through at the end of the day. So it's a very important factor that any broker or consumer should look at is back on the right horse. Make sure that you put your money on somebody who has had a proven track record. I'm not saying write the new ones off, but I'm saying the writing is visible, even of the new one, to say that, yes, he is a performer and he's not a performer by the way he deals. And the most important thing I always say is judge a broker on how he treats the broker. If he uses him as a doormat, you're next in the queue as a buyer. So if the person treats the broker right and he makes sure that he gives his due to the broker, I'm telling you that most people depend on the broker 100%. They may come and do a transaction directly with the developer, but the broker plays a very, very important role. He's a conduit in this whole thing. And he's the conduit that makes the real estate transaction virtually possible between digital or otherwise. Because consumers are dependent on market information and market news. And this market information, market news is what the feet on the ground can actually convey. That's my 2 bit that I wanted to add on what, you were talking on the reliability. And I'm saying these are temporary phases. At the end of the day, the broker, the developer, everybody has, it's one supply chain, and you have to make sure that you have to support the broker, the developer, and the entire chain at this point in time to make sure that everything goes through smoothly. I mean, you're doing this in a larger perspective across India, but from our experiences, global and international, the biggest factor that is, given this opportunity on conclusion of a transaction is the appreciation part to the broker. That's it. I just wanted to.
I think you touched that point, and I think you have put the point forward for ANAROCK as well. So we kind of write the same.
Yeah, that's what I said for the entire industry.
Yeah. So I'm running out of time, and I would kind of like to go on and on. So but it was a pleasure interacting with all of you. I'll just summarize what we discussed and maybe add a couple of my points. So the message is very clear that number one, Bangalore is definitely one of the most resilient market. Kind of buyer mix as well as the developer are better than rest of the country. The developers in Bangalore have definitely focused more on execution, product mix, and a service centric approach towards its buyer, which the dividends are quite clear. The good part is most of the developers in Bangalore, unlike other parts of the country, are not too much levered, and that's where the competitive advantage comes. Vikram would be a happy man because almost 80 to 90% of the developers of the Bangalore are very open to technology, adoption of technology. They're receptive, and it's kind of the buyers mix. They're well traveled. Most of them work in IT companies. They have seen the way customers are treated abroad. So I think that has also helped the developer to keep the bar quite high. There's no denying that technology is going to lead the way forward in this whole crisis. Business continuity plan, when all the developers sit across the table, digital technology would be the cornerstone. And Darshan had put it quite right that adoption of technology right from this construction stage is going to be key differentiator. We are talking about affordable housing where margins are really wafer thin. You only protect your margin by bringing down the cost of construction, or let's say by reducing the time of construction, the construction cycle. Now, I think as we move towards the adoption of digital, increasing our online presence, this comes from my observation that the full cycle gets completed when you have a good online reputation management. We all would see that, on a personal level, that, if you put something, if you, expose yourself online where you are trying to get in touch with your customers, there will be some kind of to and fro communication happening. Not every communication will be pleasant one. Today, what we have seen is that when a buyer is doing his search, when he starts his home journey, buying journey, 80% of the search originates online. The second part, when he shortlists a project, he also does kind of some cross-check reference. He will go to various forums where he will seek out what are the other people, buyers talking about that particular developer. And there is no active online reputation management done by us, where we kind of engage with the buyers who might not be very happy. They might post some kind of difficult questions, and when that remains unanswered, and that builds a perception. So I think this is also one of the elements that should not be forgotten. And I think it was a pleasure interacting with all of you. Hopefully we meet personally soon once this pandemic is over. It has been a long time. Reeza and Farook, I met you personally. So with this, I'll hand it back to Sapna. Sapna, over to you.
Yeah, I think it was a very interesting panel. Mr. Farook, you said it rightly, delayed but not denied if we go with the most dependable brands. And I think most of the consumers are now, the report suggests that most of them are now in favor of only the top brands or the well-known brands. So it was a very different thoughts that we got from our people. So now we have, joining the session, Issac Mathew, who is the CEO of Indus TechShu, and Ruhail Amin, who is the editor for E4M, Exchange for Media and Business World. So, Aji, would you like to go first with your question? You have, heard the entire discussion.
Right. So, one of my question is in terms of different countries, what type of difference do you see before the lockdown and after the lockdown? Is there any kind of a difference that you see that the demand is coming from some countries more than other countries?
Who would you like to take the question, Ajay?
Anybody. Reeza can take it.
I'll take that if you want to, Sapna.
Yeah, Farouk, please.
Isaac, I would say that, there's no one size fits all policy. But I would say the number one leads come from the Middle East because of the big diaspora of Indians working there. And if you've seen the news in the past couple of days, Kuwait is talking about 800,000 Indians who may be finding India back as a home very soon. I would say the Middle East is the number one contributor to this. Outflow of money from India is right now going into markets like, there's a two-way street. One is till pre-COVID days, it was Indians who were buying for their kids, either in New York or SFO or LA, where the kids were going for education. And most Indian families are quite wealthy. They can afford to send their kids abroad to educate. They don't buy homes. They don't want to lease out homes. They want to buy homes. And under the liberalized scheme of transfer of money, you can, each individual can transfer about 250,000 US dollars. And in the family of two is about $500,000. If it's a family of $4 million, you can pick up a home even in the best location in Manhattan. Having said that, I think the second market that is getting Indian money is Dubai, which number one is Indian money going in there, and UK. But the money outflow coming into India is first is from the Middle East, second is from the US, and third is from different parts of Europe. And of course, Far East is not too much of a flow, but the main market is the Middle East market that is concentrated, which is pouring out. And if you go by a graphic of which countries, UAE would contribute the most amount of money coming into India. And out of that money that's coming in, 4 states are getting the most of this. Number one, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Kerala, and Pune. These are the 4 cities that are getting money from these markets. NRIs are investing back home here.
That's interesting. Rohit.
Yes. So, in this entire conversation, one point that I really wanted to ask all of you, any of you can answer this, is that while brand communication is happening, what has also been seen is that any kind of communication at this time might be interpreted in a slightly different way. The tone of communication might be seen as opportunistic, though you might be just talking to your stakeholders. How do we ensure that, we stay clear of this misunderstanding, that you are selling to us? The customer doesn't want to be seen as, somebody who's being sold to. So how are you ensuring that your communication is not misinterpreted? It may be sometimes.
Anish, would you like to take that?
I'd say the advertising and communication has changed quite a bit. You're not putting the real estate product right in front of him. You're perhaps talking about an experience of living in certain types of communities, and what it can do for the family and stuff like that. So a lot of it is, it's changed a lot from putting out a perspective on the ad and things like that. It doesn't say, 2-bedroom, so much, etc., etc. A lot of it could be a campaign which is talking about connectivity, for example, or smart homes, or whatever else you want to say out there. But the point is, we also need to target the right kind of audience. So if I have a 50 lakh home and consumers looking for something which is half the amount, it doesn't quite match there. So that's important for us. And one needs to put it across in different ways, I suppose. Some of these illustrations are quite humorous at times. One can use any such cue to communicate.
So I'll take a bit of that. So I think we need to approach the consumer with very positive communication at this point, right? Means home is where obviously your life is and happiness is. So I think while approaching clients in this time, if you use positive construct, and there are a lot of them around home and home buying and where your life is, that resonates better, puts it in a positive manner, and they are able to relate better with all the conversations going on where home is very important today. Why it is important, and this is where you will find your happiness, is what the construct is for communication in these times, and it's been working quite well for us.
Ruhail, can I take a small take on this?
Sure, please.
So for us at Embassy, I think ever since lockdown was announced on the 24th of May, our singular goal was to provide our residents and our employees with the confidence and assurance that their health and safety was our first priority. And that singular communication tone across all mediums So especially when thereafter, when the unlock happened and when buyers started meeting us at the property. So after looking at our online communication and experiencing the same information in reality, that kind of helped to build the trust further. And that also helped us to, communicate much better about successful transactions. How are we able to bring in that element of managed communities even at this difficult time, and how we have ensured that our residents have been, they have not faced any sort of discontinuation of services at this point in time. Being able to communicate things like that made a huge amount of difference. So for any brand, I would say that that core communication, that authenticity of the message, that mission to deliver value, all of this. And combining brand touch points, right? Irrespective whether it's online or offline. And it should be a unilateral, extremely seamless experience. And that will help in your communication strategy, be it a branded developer or not.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I would also, probably, can I take a stab at it?
Yeah, please, Darshan.
I agree with all 3 points mentioned, but I also feel like us developers should probably educate the customers about the current situation as to how they could be getting a very sweet deal at this point in time, whether that be because of lower interest rates that make their homes more affordable, probably an increased home loan eligibility because of how the situation is. I think in terms of thematic advertising pushes and brand messages, we should also probably try and educate the customers in terms of how they probably can find a sweeter deal during this time, is what my 2 cents are.
Perfect.
Right. So educating the customers, giving the message subtly, and informing the customers about the initiatives that the company is taking are these some of the ways to build confidence among your consumer. We have a very interesting question from one of the audience. I think, Prashant, I would like you to take that. While we have been talking about residential segment, they are saying, what is the future for co-living and co-working?
So I think these products. I think they for city like Bangalore, Pune, which has a lot of young population, student population. This asset is definitely going to perform better. There's a temporary blip just because of this COVID-19, where the social distancing norm and all those things are kind of a temporary shake-up. But yes, if we look at the shared economy that was more prevalent before this pandemic hit us, will re-emerge. So there would definitely be kind of new norms in terms of cleanliness, hygiene, and let's say social distancing. But the need of a community living, or let's say shared economy, cannot be ruled out. So I think things will take time, but it will be back on next week.
How long do you think the commercial real estate investors are going to come back to commercial real estate?
Commercial real estate as an asset class, if we look at 2019, it was one of the best year for them.
Yes.
Both in terms of leasing as well as new completion. And then if we talk about pan-India context, there has always been a dearth of grade A offices. So even if we are talking about this impact of work from, we are also accounting that a lot of IT companies will expand because of a lot of jobs that will be outsourced, because every company globally will have a lot of cost pressure. And when you think of protecting your margin, increasing your margin, you tend to outsource your non-core activities. And if you look at the way the Indian IT and ITs have evolved, they've gone up in the value chain also. This is one part. Second is your startup ecosystem is still thriving. And if we look at this new norms post COVID-19, we are talking about de-densification of offices. So corporates will also look at that angle, and also for a city like Mumbai, where we saw partial lockdowns in various areas. Few of the areas were in green zone that could operate, few of them were in red zone. So in last couple of years we are seeing consolidation of office spaces to grade A offices. Now we'll see a trend where they will have different locations, so that this business continuity plan in such kind of scenario would be in ground. So in my opinion, commercial would be the first one to kind of see recovery, just because we have still dearth of grade offices in the country.
Okay. Okay. So that's pretty hopeful. Ajay, any other question that you would like to bring about?
From a user experience perspective, before COVID and after COVID, do you think the users have started asking some new type of questions? Have you seen any kind of a user behavior change, especially people coming from digital? Are they spending more time with you? Are they more window shopping and trying to waste your salespeople's time? So what is the kind of trend that you're trying to see from there?
Mr. Jain, if you would like to take that query.
Post-pandemic, the requirement from the consumer is to have for the more spaces, and they are looking for more spaces. Maybe they can do one with a study room also, which can be used for a strategic region, a work from home option. This is the one option which we are seeing from the customers, and more inquiry on what kind of services are available. I mean to say the amenities are available. As one of the panelists has mentioned very rightly, they tend to spend more time at home. So then they see what are the services available and how close are they with the social infrastructure. This is top of the mind. And apart from this, one of the trend which has been observed in the consumer, in fact, earlier the me time between the couples, husband and wife, was very, very less, and that was delaying the decision. And during pandemic, the me time is more, and they spend collectively more on the design aspect of it. Like they discuss on the design, how it should be and what is that, and the decision making has been improved and become more faster. This is one trend which has been observed. Yeah, this is what from my side.
Okay, so that's interesting. So post and pre.
So although the volumes that we have seen right across the clients have dropped and they are picking up, we are back to 70% of pre-COVID levels. But the quality of buyer has improved substantially actually. So everybody who's in the market right now, earlier your qualification ratios used to be around 25 to 30%. Now it has jumped to almost 50 to 60%. So the quality of buyer who's inquiring, who's walking in is extremely good in this situation. Because they're really serious about buying is what we have seen. Unlike, in fact, there are more window shoppers earlier, pre-COVID. So overall, and my cost of closure has come down because of that. So because digital has become cheap, most of the industries have stopped advertising. Cost has dropped substantially, so I can widen my funnel. There is more interested buyer, so my cost per closure is again coming between a 1.5 on digital, which is kind of the green shoots that we are seeing right now.
Right.
I think, just to add to that, Sapna, I think the theme of today's, of today's customers actually to conserve cash as much as possible, right? I mean, there is a lot of talk about loss of employment, loss of jobs, etc. So the theme is, when customers come to us, is really about how much cash can he conserve, and therefore how much less upfront money will we take today. So any developer which can actually put out some very strong financial schemes will definitely see a lot of gain in this market.
Okay, that's an interesting point. So, in fact, we did get a lot of mixed, viewpoints from all our speakers. We also were running a live poll while we were discussing things. So, some very mixed, again, inputs have come from our viewers as well. When we asked them, if do they see the prices going down further in next 3 to 6 months? Mr. Kishore, as you rightly said, no. So, most of the viewers agree, yes, the prices will not go down any further. And like Mr. Farook mentioned that, the handshake is important. So yes, our buyers are very okay. The majority of them are okay to view projects online rather than going for site visit. But for closing the transaction, 75% say they would like to do it, in person. And again, as we were talking about commercial real estate, so our viewers are like 50-50. For some of them say that commercial market real estate will recover. 49% say that it will recover in 1 year, while 44% say that it will recover in 6 months. So I think still a very positive, feedback from our viewers that 6 months to 1 year we will see recovery in commercial real estate. Another very interesting question that we asked is that because of the delay in delivery of projects, do they expect developers to give some kind of an allowance or a discount to the buyers? So 51% say no, they do not expect that. So I believe the customers are pretty much educated and aware, and they understand the reasons for delay. So these are some of the facts that we got from our viewers, and I think it was a very interesting panel. Prashant, what do you feel? How was the the entire discussion, and the kind of feedback that we have got?
I think the first feedback is that I wish I could have more time
Yeah.
to interact with them. You never get so many eminent people on a single screen. I think everybody kind of touched the point quite well, and they were very honest in the answers. And Darshan, again, I would say your points on the millennials, I think would add a few pointers for my own research. So I would really like to thank everybody, and thanks for this opportunity.
So in fact, on our social media on Facebook, 8,745 people had been viewing this discussion. So that's a and I think we have got a huge insight in the Bangalore market, especially how it is performing. So I would like to thank on behalf of the Realty Plus team each and every speaker today who have been here with us. Mr. Swaroop, Anish, thank you for being part of the debate today. Darshan, thank you for adding your valuable inputs. They were really as Prashant said rightly brought out some of the key aspects. Reeza, thank you for your thoughts and views that you represented. Vikram, as Prashant said, you are the most happy man in the entire panel. So thanks for bringing the technology aspect. Aji for joining us and asking just the right questions. Prashant, thank you for your moderation, and Mr. Kishore Jain, thank you for being here representing the real estate of Bengaluru for the giving insights to our viewers. And thanks Ruhel for joining in, taking out your time and being here with us. So thank you everyone, and
thank you
have
everyone.
a great evening.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sapna. Thank you, Prashant. Thank you, panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.